First of all, my husband wanted me to make sure and tell you how brilliant you are.
Oh, that's very kind.
And how much you love the show. And we were discussing the level of commitment to that particular level of tension and how impressive it is that you're able to hold that tension. Like in the pilot episode where you're talking to the woman, to hold that tension for as long as you do. Like, I'm like, how do you do that? Like, I mean, I know it's like a big question, but like that takes a toll, I imagine.
Yeah, it's a way I think. I mean, it's the same as, I suppose, what you live with in Sharp Objects, when you kind of live with something all the time, and it can be one tone. And I think anxiety was a huge tone I had to live with that character because of what he's suffering as well. And yeah, it's hard because you kind of, I'm not a method actor in any way, but you kind of can't come out of it between takes or at night, because I get home and I've got 8 hours until I'm back in makeup again, and you go, I can't kind of get happy again because I need to bring myself all the way down to where that is. And it's just a constant level of anxiety you keep yourself at, and it gets destructive, actually.
It can, yeah, I imagine.
What was it like in Sharp Objects when you have someone who kind of has such
destructive.
self-loathing? Yeah.
You know, I have to be honest. When I had my daughter, I was a lot more like that. I couldn't come out of characters, and I carried it with me in a different way. And I went through a particularly challenging shoot, and what I realized is I've got to figure out how to come out of it, or I can't do it, because I can't be the mother I want to be and live in that state of anxiety or distress. So I've really worked on it. So for me now,
what's the secret?
Just making the decision, and then it takes practice, you know. But I think that's where we were discussing that middle of the night wake up, which I've talked about before, where like it goes somewhere. Yeah. And so usually it hits me at about 2:30, 3 in the morning.
Yeah, I get that throughout the shoot, and then at the end of the shoot, it's the shaking off of it. Yeah. That I still really struggle to do, because you want to shake it off and get rid of it, but you're so deep down that rabbit hole. It takes you. It took me a few months after I finished Bodyguard to kind of get myself back, because you spend more time in someone else's clothes and someone else's thoughts, speaking someone else's words. Yeah. That you go, right, well, I've lost myself a bit there.
I understand that. Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because watching Bodyguard, I was like, I so identify with this character only because I'm just paranoid and anxious.
Paranoid and anxious,
so, like,
yeah, me too.
I was like, I totally get it. I'm constantly like on edge. So I really felt that from him.
I don't know what you feel about going into using your own paranoia and anxiety for things.
I try not to use my experiences, meaning I work really hard not to carry past experiences around with me on a daily basis. So to access them for work feels like I'm trudging into stuff I want to work through. Does that make sense? Yeah. So I try to create a space for my characters where I can live and use my relationship with whether it's pain or anger or fear, anxiety. I can use my relationship, but I don't use my own experiences. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's something I find, like, I'm so very much against actors using acting as therapy, and I can see it sometimes, and I'm really against it, but so against it that I've got in my way a lot on jobs where I don't access my own things because I don't want to use it as therapy, and you end up not kind of doing the job you should because you can't access those things, because I don't want to tap into those bits of me.
No, that makes a lot of sense, and I think I used to be like that, and then something happened, and I don't know when the switch happened, where I wouldn't go in knowing what I was working out. Like, I didn't know going in, like, oh, I'm going to work out, my relationship with my mother, or none of that. But like, through the experience, I would find a catharsis that would allow me to open up and find how it did tap into something personal. And that allowed me to go a little deeper. That wasn't acting advice, by the way.
No, I'm taking
no
it.
business. No, but for me, that was really, that was a real turning point in my work when I could open up and understand, not make it therapy, but understand how it could create a certain catharsis if I was able to open myself.
What I think when it comes to choosing jobs, and I never I still haven't worked out what came first, the chicken or the egg, because I do a job and I come out the other end of it going, I've now realised I needed to explore that bit about myself and about my life. And I go, did I gravitate towards that job because I needed to connect with that bit of that character and myself, or did doing that job make me connect with that bit of the character myself?
Exactly.
I'm never quite sure which one I'm doing.
I have that same awareness that you're talking about. I think that's the same thing that I was saying, and I think now I'm able to see it a little bit more, a little earlier.
And so can you be clearer with when you choose something that that's somewhere you want to go and explore? I mean, like with Sharp Objects, like what drew you to choosing that character, that path, those things you have to engage with?
I think the fact that I wanted to run from it is what made me want to do it.
Absolutely.
So I've always had that philosophy that if I'm scared of it, let's do it.
Yeah.
Like, this seems like a place I should probably explore. If I feel like there's no way I could get there, then...
If I'm not good enough to do it, that's the job I should try and do.
Exactly. Yeah, like, well, the worst I'm going to be is bad, so I can live with that, or maybe. Like,
Or the
I
worst
mean,
thing is you succeed, and then you're like, oh God, you've kind of gone to something self-destructive. I think we can all kind of do is that test yourself. I try and never do anything that I know I can do. I do the things I think I can't, and then see if I can succeed at it or not.
Absolutely. I get scared every time.
Terrified.
Well, what drew you to The Bodyguard? What was it? I mean, I think it's brilliant, so I can see, but I'm curious what drew you to that?
I don't know. Again, it's the chicken or the egg thing. I don't know if there is parts of his anxiety or his loneliness, his isolation, that there's bits of me that I wanted to kind of explore within that, and I think I did on it, and maybe in a non-therapy way worked through some of that by being so isolated and realizing how self-destructive that is, and living in his shoes for so long took its toll actually, and maybe that was a kind of working through. I wanted to get into his head. He fascinated me because he's in such a morally ambiguous zone the whole time. He's not clean-cut good or bad, and particularly when I've spent so many years playing characters that are good and bad things happen to them. Yeah. I was interested in playing someone that I don't know if he's good or bad actually, and we're going to have to work that out. And I didn't have the last 2 episodes when I signed up for it.
Wow.
I didn't know, so it was kind of like a gamble, I suppose, where you go, I don't know if I'm playing a villain or a good guy, and I think that's what makes him so human, because we all are not.
You don't have to do this. You can change your mind. Don't do that, please, don't do that. Don't move, stay still, please. Just stay still, please. Just stay still, don't move, please, please.
With Sharp Objects, you're executive producing that, and you have your own production company. And
I did.
I'm interested in how does that affect your relationship with the performance, with the production?
Yeah, I loved it, and that's why I didn't have a production company when I produced Sharp Objects, and that sort of drove me in that direction and made me realize how much I've always been somebody who looks at the big picture of anything I'm working on, and I always want to serve the story. And so to get to do that in a different way, and to have to get to use my voice and my experience in a way that can improve the experience for everyone around me as well, that became something I was really excited about.
I suppose when you're the lead actor on something, I find you end up doing so much more than just acting. That can end up being 40% of your job, because you're doing all these other things already.
And I always want to take care of people, not, whether it's creatively, like in a scene. It's something I've had to really work on. Like, I always want to be the kind of scene partner that supports what the other person has to do as well, as communicate with what my character has to do. That's always been important to me. And so to be able to, it's strange to say this, but to like gain the trust that when I'm talking, I'm not just talking about my character, because I think sometimes in the past I felt uncomfortable using my voice because I was afraid that people would think I was just thinking about myself, and that's just not my nature. Yeah. So I think to let go of that fear and to just dive into trusting myself, really, to use my voice in that way.
And when you're, like, what you've got coming up producing-wise, are you acting in all of these things, or are you taking a step
Some of them
sideways for
I
that?
am, yeah,
Okay.
some of them I am. But we right now have a really broad slate of things we're pursuing. And I think one of the things I really love doing is introducing new talent, or giving people opportunities to step outside of people's expectations of them. That gets me really excited. Like on Sharp Objects, we brought Eliza Scanlon in, and she's unbelievable.
Yeah,
it was her first big job, and now she's like doing so much. And I'm more excited about introducing the world to her than I've ever been about anything that I've done myself. Like, I get super excited hearing about her success. That makes me happy. And so when I think about what I want to do in my life, and when I think about what I want to do even with my career, I have to listen to that little voice, or that thing that gets me excited. And when I realized I'm more excited to hear what Eliza's doing than anything I'm doing myself, I thought I want to keep doing that.
That's crazy that you can create something that then inspires you back, which I quite like, gives you excitement again and pushes you on.
Oh my gosh, more than anything. And I love what I do, but this excited me in a way that I really felt like I had to listen to.
You were drunk at the Keen's house.
I wasn't. But even if I was, this is Wind Gap. Everyone's drunk.
Come here.
No, Emma's throwing a fit, and you're giving me a lecture about drinking. I guess it's just the nature of, I'm being really honest for a second, it makes me uncomfortable, because I don't know, as actors, we think about exposure before we take a project. I've never taken a project thinking about what this would mean for my career. And so I wonder, when you've taken certain projects, whether it be Game of Thrones or whether it be Bodyguard, have you thought about how that would shift perception of you, or has it been a surprise? And like, what is that surprise to you, or what has that meant to you?
It's never been intentional. I shot this show in England. I thought it was just going to be this small thing that hopefully was going to do well, because we all had really good intentions when we went into it, and it obviously got much bigger than that. And there's certain things of that I'm really thankful for, because I think I was known from Game of Thrones. That was a kind of the biggest role that kind of brought me across the water and opened up kind of things a bit bigger for me. And it was kind of remarkable that this has kind of helped move me on from that.
Yeah.
And I think it's just where I'm at in my life, again, mirroring like where the character's at, is going into a different phase.
Yeah.
And I've been acting since I was 11.
Wow.
So you kind of go through these different phases of exposure, I suppose. And then actually on a kind of, on an annual basis, because of Game of Thrones, even though I'm not in it, there becomes that bit every year when it's back in everyone's psyche, because it's back on, that then it ramps up again, and then it drops down again.
TV's interesting, because doing Sharp Objects, it was a totally different relationship with the audience, I found, than in film even. Yeah. And how personally people connect to the characters. I think because they're in their own home and they have a personal relationship with them. I do have to confess, though, when I first met you, I was like, that Richard is so nice. I mean, he's so good in that Bodyguard show. What else has he done? I was like, oh, he's in Game of Thrones? I mean, I felt so stupid. I told you. I think my husband told me. Yeah, I didn't confess to it. My husband told you. But it's just because you did such a good job, and your own natural energy is so different than that character. So it was just, it's funny because of course you were, but it's just, I thought I should throw myself under the bus there, because I know my husband already did it, but I love him.
Like, under the bus first, but thank you.
Yeah, and I'm like the kind of like person who's now binge watched all of it from the beginning again.
Oh, you did it again? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Like, yeah.
It's a monster.
Yeah.
It's a monster. It's a great monster, though.
It's a great monster. It's fun.
But then that's a huge amount of hours, and what's that like for you from doing so much film, where you can go as deep and be as engulfed by the project you're on, to then taking that and going, actually, I'm going to be doing this for 6 months. I mean, how long was Sharp Objects?
I shot for 4 months.
Okay.
And the way that Jean-Marc shoots, I've spoken about it before, it was a marathon, and it was humbling. Especially to look at the work that people are doing on television and to realize the level of commitment that it takes to sustain a character.
And the prep it takes. You don't have time to find it when we're there as much. I feel we find it, you got to do your prep and be in it and expect more of the actors that you're working with and give more than you're used to, because we just don't have time, you know?
You don't have the time. And like I said, just humbling is the best way to describe it. And but also very exciting, which is why I'm really interested in kind of doing more television.
You want to do more television?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I got very excited by being able to take my time with a character and not feel like I had to like serve each act, you know? Like here's where we need to be. The arc is much shorter in a film, so you have to move a little more with more intention.
Yeah.
And in television to get to, especially playing somebody, I mean the characters we played are both so intense and so layered. To allow the audience to get to know them over a season as opposed to over 2 hours was a gift for me.
You've got to be braver as well, I find, because I've got to be braver of going, I'm not going to give you this payoff, I'm not going to give you this hint for 5 hours. You're going to wait until we pay that off, and you're like, should I be doing this? Will we lose the audience by the time I get to give you that payoff to the seed I planted this long ago? I have to be braver with it, and I like that, and it's asking an audience to trust you and to kind of go with it, and I enjoy playing with the audience in that way of I'm going to set something up, and then 4 hours later we're going to go somewhere else with it.
The thing is, David/Dave, I don't need you to vote for me, only to protect me.
Rest assured, Mum, I'll do what's required. Mum.
Forgive me because I sort of binge watch, so there are no seasons of Game of Thrones for me. There's just one long epic. What season did you leave?
I died at the end of season 3.
Season 3, okay. How has it been for you with the show going on? Did you feel like you were able to divorce yourself from that experience, even though it was such
a hard thing to finish, because from first pilot to my death was 5 years.
Wow.
And I think 5 years as an actor to spend with any one character, because you just kind of put them on the shelf for 6 months and then you take them back again.
Yeah.
And I think that's something what's so strange about kind of these recurring TV shows is it feels more unnatural to kind of keep coming back to someone, particularly when you can age 3 years and the character's only aged a year.
Yeah.
So you're like, whoa, I'm having to kind of wrestle myself back when I'm actually going somewhere else. But, 5 years was a great time to be on the show and to do it. And I had the best time. It helped me so much with my career and my experience. I learned just a lot from shooting 30 hours of television.
Yeah.
You really start to learn my trade doing that. And then was thankful to leave it. I think the actors on it now are must be 11 years into playing these characters, and that is give these guys some medals here, because that's a marathon. And I was sad to leave my family. I spend more time with my on-screen mother than my real mother, so you get very attached to people. But I was happy to move on from that and try and kind of just work through the rest of my 20s doing other jobs, other characters. And I think there's a restraint that comes from doing these TV shows, because sometimes you're not allowed to do other things, and scheduling wise, between shooting them and then doing the press, you've got 2 months off, which you need as a break, and then you're back to it again. And as an actor, I really enjoyed being able to kind of mix things up and do different things. So I was so thankful to be part of it, but I was also very, very comfortable and ready to leave when I did.
Yeah. What do you want to do next? That's like one of those questions.
I
totally just gave you like so what are your plans now, Richard? No, but I'm always curious artistically where they want to go. Like what are your hopes for what kind of characters you get to explore?
I'd like to explore things that are a bit not Romeo. I think I've spent 10 years playing different versions of Romeo, from Rob Stark to literally playing Romeo twice on stage. Once when I was 21 and once when I was 30.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I've kind of played a lot of these good guys that bad things happen to. And with Bodyguard, that was my first real experience of getting into something which was a man who was a father.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't have any children, and I think there's something that happens. There's your mind frame changes, your own concept of your own mortality changes when you have a child, and I think that really affects characters, and I'm interested in those characters a bit more, and I'm interested in this kind of this moral space that isn't so clean cut as good guys and bad guys. I want to kind of delve into that. That's human. Yeah. I suppose both playing these very troubled characters. Yeah. When we go into kind of their intimacy, it becomes even more complicated and troublesome. And I think particularly when love and hate being such tied, close things, and then you throw passion in, it gets very complicated. And we both had intimate scenes within these TV shows, which are kind of messed up because of our drive for doing them, and our need for intimacy, and our manipulation of the other person, and what we're taking from them. Yeah. And how do you get your head into that? Because when the characters aren't whiskey, that'll do it.
That's how I get my head in. No.
It is. I know it is. It's so true. You're like, you're just going to take your clothes off in front of all these people, be really intimate within a very troubled mind space. You're like, I need something to get me through this.
Jean-Marc said in some interview, she was drinking all the time. I was like, I didn't drink at all except once. And that was because I felt that the character had to come from such a raw place, and her need had to be bare. I could not hide her need. Yeah. And that was scary for me to go to a place of that deep dysfunction, and sort of the way she went about it.
Which then ties in with all your own things, which, like we talked before, is not therapy through acting, but it ties in, and you start to, it gets complicated and mixed up.
And intimacy is so personal, and especially intimacy inside of a sexual relationship is so personal, and to have to try to emulate that on screen is just it's such a vulnerable place for me, because especially when a character's motivations aren't sexual. Yeah. Like, it's easy to, do that. Yeah. But, well, it's not easy. That's not easy for me either, actually. None of it's easy for me. Yeah. But what about you? Did that feel, I mean, you touched on it, but do you feel really vulnerable? I just feel so vulnerable.
I feel so vulnerable doing these things.
And it's not the nudity.
No, it's not the nudity.
It's being open.
Yeah, it's being open. And then that's what is so... people often ask, people are always very interested about sex scenes and nudity with actors for some reason. It's a hot topic. And and I always find that there's something, when you've not got your clothes on, when you are in bed with someone, there's a way you speak to each other. There's a side that you expose that we just couldn't do if we were both fully dressed, in bed. There's a difference.
Well, I was fully dressed, which was interesting.
Yeah, well, that's the screwed up bit.
That was part of the messed up bit. I didn't mean to, but I agree.
But that's even harder to do, the thing that you're supposed to do when you're naked, but you're clothed and hiding something that's going on, and actually just to kind of...
But it had to be super choreographed. I mean,
oh my God, it had to be.
I've used the word super a lot. I do that. I think I did that last time too. I think I'm exposing something about myself right now, is that I use the word super in my natural life.
Goodness, is something the matter?
No, Mama, not at all. I'm just in town on business.
Business? The house is not up to par for visitors, I'm afraid.
Looks just fine. I always love when I'm over in the UK and being exposed to the different television shows, and the history of television is so different over there. What did you watch? What were the shows that you were into?
See, it's so funny you say that, because I'm in the UK watching all of this and tuning in, pulling everything from America that I love. Yeah. I suppose the first thing that really made me fall in love with television, one of the first things, was the series 24. It became my first. It was my first binge watching, where you'd lose 6 hours. You'd be like, whoa, I've just lost 6 hours to Jack Bauer. And then actually really embarrassing, I saw Kiefer Sutherland in the street once, and I think it's the most starstruck I've ever been, because I was on, season 54 of 24, and I saw him in the street, and I kind of just waved, because I was kind of like, I kind of want you to be my dad and my friend and all these things. Yeah. So I'm always interested to see that and to tune into the stuff in Europe that I get, you know, the kind of French TV shows that are kind of under the radar, and you know, thanks we have Netflix to kind of give us and share these things.
Yeah,
Was there anything in like Britain particularly that you tuned into that wasn't over here first, or no?
Benny Hill. My dad watched Benny Hill, and I grew up watching Benny Hill.
That's great,
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Richard Little, wasn't he? Was he English, or did he just pretend to be English? He did a lot of impersonations. It's funny because I didn't have cable early on, and there was my relationship with television. Through my 20s, I worked in theater and was very poor and never paid for cable, and so I literally watched Murder, She Wrote and Matlock, and I love those shows. So I was like, oh, Murder, She Wrote is awesome.
Yep.
But this whole new wave of television that came, I think it was The Sopranos, when I was like, what's happening on TV?
Or The Wire. The Wire was another one that
I'm
was like, whoa.
I need to pay attention, because this is really, it feels like a renaissance, and it's really exciting, and it's just kind of continued since then, and so it's really fun to be a part of.
And so next, will you put your focus more into television, do you think, than movies?
Probably both. I still love movies, but I love that it now feels like a very fluid relationship between television and movies, whereas before you kind of had
very
you picked a path, and that was sort of what you did. And
one's teaching me about the other. I always feel when I go onto a film set after being on a TV set for so long, I rush everything because I'm so used to like, we've got to shoot 15 pages today, and it's like, no, we're okay, we've got 3 pages to shoot actually, and you can take as long as you want to explore this scene, and I'm always kind of get in there and give it all so it needs to be done.
I know, but now I've become really impatient.
Right, because you want to move on.
I was like, it's been like a half an hour. Like
what are you doing?
What do we do? I'm ready.
Exactly.
I'm here.
We've done it.
I shot I shot a film with Joe Wright called Woman in the Window, and in it there's a scene where she goes through something quite traumatic, and it took 8 days to shoot, and I was like, oh my gosh, I miss TV, because this would have taken, I had to stay in this devastated place
for 8 days.
For 8 days.
Okay.
And I was like, oh, in Sharp Objects, this would have taken like 5 hours.
Yeah, we would have got it out. And that's what's hard. There's kind of pros and cons to both. Yeah,
but it's a different muscle, and it's great to learn to use both of them, I find, creatively.
And if I can remind myself when I go back to film, then you're almost like you're triple prepared, because I'm so used to doing it so fast. You go, okay, now I can stop and actually do all that prep and then have the time to play out.
And you can play. Like, isn't playing a gift?
So we both have very different relationships when it comes to song and dance and performance. You are a big friend of this and thoroughly enjoy it.
In song and dance,
And you enjoy it as a medium.
Yeah, very much. I don't ever get to do it. Like, I keep playing these tortured characters, and I'm like, hey, I'm over here. I'm over here tap dancing in the corner. Anybody?
And I've just done my first kind of, well, it's a musical film where I'm singing and dancing in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not my strength. It's not my happy place. I find it quite difficult to do.
Why is that? What is it about?
I'm not a strong singer.
Okay.
So there's that, and I suppose there's a self-consciousness to. I'm not a strong dancer either. I mean, I shouldn't be doing musical films, but I suppose there's something that I find very, very exposing about singing and dancing. And I suppose what I enjoyed was trying to work out how you can be in a dramatic scene and then go into song and dance. That's what I learned on this, was a new skill of how to, because it's just another way of telling a story.
It absolutely is. Yeah. I think because I started in musical theater, I started as a dancer, and so that was my first love. It's like you'll always love your first love, and singing is something I do all the time, and I've never wanted to actually make a career of being a singer, because I think it would make me self-conscious, whereas getting to sing on my own makes me happy.
Okay.
So it's like one of those artistic expressions that I get to just
And would you like to find something soon that you're singing and dancing in?
Yeah, I mean, if it feels organic. I mean, I'm getting a little I just about called myself long in the tooth, but I am, to play an ingenue. No, I mean, it's true. I've always been really realistic about age and maturity and kind of where I want to go with that. But if something feels organic and it makes sense, I'd love to do it. I still go to dance class, and yeah, I'm very bad. I go to ballet class, and it's
I'm awful. All
love
those
it.
singing and dancing classes at drama school that I was like, I'm never going to need this. I'm never going to do this. And then you're like, oh God, why didn't I go?
Yeah, no, I would have loved to go to drama school. I didn't go, so yeah. Did you?
I did. I went and I left after the first year. I managed to
too
get
much
work.
singing and dancing.
Too much singing and dancing. No, I managed to get. I got a job, and I loved being at drama school, and I loved for the first time being around people my age who were passionate about this acting thing.
But you'd been working since you were.
I've been working
11.
since I was a kid, so I kind of, and as much as I loved it, I realised that I'm going to learn a lot more from working with a couple of actors in their 50s in the studio theatre than I am in a room full of 20-year-old actors in the same boat as me. You know, I did one job at the end of my first year and learned so much more just through working with people, and so that's something I kind of pursued. And I think lots of people that haven't been to drama school feel like we've all know this secret, we've all been taught this thing that we've not actually. The best thing I learned was being around people passionate as me about this thing called acting.
Yeah, I find the people that we work with are the best teachers.
Absolutely.
Always.